Hello, hello. Here we are again coming to you on 44 different platforms on the Paranormal World Show. And my name is Aage, and I'm the host here tonight. And we're also transmitting on the on cons- the Conscious Awakening Network. Why in the world would I draw a blank on that one? That is just amazing. Okay, I now when we are there, we are also transmitting then on 3 TV stations and Roku and a bunch of hordes of social media platforms. And also go check them out because they got about 50 different shows on that platform. And all of those shows are about things that you and me want to know about. So if you want to get a hold of me or my co-host on Broadcast Team Alpha, Nori Love, just go to broadcastteamalpha.com and send us a message. We'll get the message and we'll get back to you. And while you are on YouTube, and that is the place to be because that's the only place we monitor the chat room. You can ask questions and we may be able to answer them for you. So that's when you're there. Go ahead and subscribe also if you like what you hear today, and click the bell so you get a notification and next time it's coming out. And then Nori and I created a spiritual think tank where we do incredible things. We reach into the quantum existence and we actually, it seems like we create out of seemingly nothing sometimes, especially with healings and financial things. It just happens. So that's another good one. And also the super chat is open. If you feel that you want to support us that way, that would be wonderful. We have a guest with us here. And we did a show probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And time is going fast when you're having fun. We have Leonard O'Neill here. He is he is an on-air personality. He has been a show host for many, many years. And he has become an expert on the law of one. He has studied it. This comes from thousands and thousands of years ago. They were teaching it in Atlantis with the children of light. And it is a basis for the original religions in many ways. And we want to pick his brain on this. And I want to ask him the first question. The law of one, where does it come from, Leonard?
Well, the law of one in the mundane here on Earth was a group of people in the 1980s. But this is not the origin of it, but this is the origin of the books. They channeled. They were called the LL Research Group, and they used channeling to try and reach out to the universe to find out if anyone was there. And they made contact with an entire species, a hive mind complex, calling themselves Ra. And immediately Dawn, the questionnaire, said, we have a Ra here on Earth in our history. Is that you? And they said, yes, we are Ra. We walked amongst your people. We built your pyramids. And if those of you who read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, this should sound familiar to you. So then they started channeling this Ra character, and they had 106 channeling sessions between 1981 and 1984, and they wrote it into 6 books. Now, that's not the origin of the law of one, like Aage just told you, that it is literally this concept that comes from nature itself, that all religions, and I'm a theologian, okay, I have studied my entire life, every religion. And oddly enough, I was just reading the Emerald Tablets of Thoth prior to coming on here just now. I told Aage that when we were off air. Literally was doing that. I was on chapter 11, reading to chapter 11. Anyways, literally all religions at their base root, those of us who study religion have found that when you go back far enough to the creation stories and the ideas that were being given to someone by a God figure or a prophet or a savior character throughout all of time in every religion, no matter how insane you think that it sounds, they're all based when they go back far enough, when you look at the base of the religion in this exact same knowledge, which Aage had mentioned, the children of light. And even Ra states that there are two forms in the positive, one being the children of light and the other being the sisters of sorrow. And so when you look back in all of the history, the origin is the same. And everyone wants to apply it to, well, which scroll is the oldest one? Because everybody seems to have copied from that scroll and have taken from that. But when you actually go back and look at the origin of the scroll, I was mentioning this like Mesopotamian scroll. Everybody says, well, the Marduk scroll is the oldest on the face of the earth. But scholars know that that scroll is based from an Akkadian scroll that's 1,200 years older. And that's a Greek, Arcadia was Greek. So when you go to the Akkadians and say and look at that scroll, they claim it came from the Egyptians. So then when you go to Egypt and you find the scroll, they claim it came from a society that was on the planet thousands of years before them, that they never created it. So everyone says, well, then it must be just something that's there. But then you have people like the Vikings in the north who never had contact with those people until around the 1100s. But their story goes back just as far. And yet it's identical. How did that happen? Aborigines in Australia, the same. The Chinese and the Japanese, who did not trade with the Egyptians way in the distant past, yet they all have these same religions. So the knowledge some of us are realizing comes from the universe itself. So the laws of the universe, look at the 634 BCE, the Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way by Lao Tzu. Also the same concept of these laws of the universe set down of the way things, the way, that's the name of the book, the Tao Te Ching means the way, is the way of ascension. So this is so much older, and this is actually an up-and-coming book that I'm going to plug real quick that's coming out in the next few months, and I'll be back talking with Aage in the next few months. He told me that. I'm putting him on the spot again, but he told me we would do that to talk about the book later on down the road. And then the next book that I'm going to have coming out in the next couple of years, probably 2 or 3 years, is going to have more of this information that some of us believe that theologians are kind of missing. They're not seeing. They're looking at the religions from the flesh, from the standpoint of the physical, and they're not looking at it from the standpoint of the spiritual. And so they're looking at it as a history book and trying to define when it was written, by who, and what scroll was it copied off of. And that's wrong thinking, just like physics is when you're trying to figure out physics and you're looking at it from the physical standpoint only and not looking at it in a more exoteric or esoteric, which means internalized, not exoteric, which means exit. So where we get the word exit from means external. Exoteric is external, and you don't even hear that word being spoken much, but everyone hears the word esoteric and thinks it means secret. If you look up that word in the original Greek, it means internalized. Yeah. But it is kind of secreted because it's internalized, but it's something that you have to look for, and that's why it's called occulted or hidden, because you have to be looking for it, but you can't look in the physical. And that goes back to what Lao Tzu said when he said, "He who seeks it will not find it. He who gropes for it will not grasp it." That's meaning that if you're looking in the physical for the land of milk and honey or the how to turn lead into gold, you'll never find it because it actually happens within you. And the law of one is the concept that there is one creator of the universe. Let's get back on point with that, right? There is one creator of the universe. And in this scenario that we have of these realities, these so-called realities, have been set up in a way to have an ecosystem so that we can learn. But the only way that we can learn is that we can't know about it. We have to think that this is all there is so that we can have this experience and ascend either in service to others or in service to self. And in doing so, that complements, that's the yin and the yang, the Vesica Pisces, however you want to look at that, okay? The yin and the yang, the Vesica Pisces, is the balance between light and darkness, masculine and feminine. The other way around, feminine being more light and masculinity being the darkness. So the aggression in the universe is the darkness, and the feminine is the nurturing, healing aspect. And that's the same as the Kundalini energy, or the Celtic knotwork, a representation of the balance and the harmony in the universe. Everyone thinks Kundalini is the only word that represents both of those, and it's not. There's the Kundalini energy, which is masculine, and the Kunda buffer energy, which is feminine, and they intertwine and go up and down your spine. The laws of one, the laws of the universe, govern all of this and all of what is nature and time space for us to have this experience. And that's what the law of one is about. So it doesn't come from the books that you can look up, the raw material by the LL Research Group. However, that knowledge is being delivered in those 6 books in there, the same way that it in the modern era, the same way these ancient knowledges were delivered from Thoth, the Atlantean, thousands of years ago. If you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the origin stories of, say, Moses, even the Christian Jesus, and the revelation in the letters to the churches, a little bit of knowledge. The letters to the churches coincide. I'm going to put this in my next book. It's mentioned in this book that's coming out. Coincide with the chakras. If you read the letters to the churches, there are 7 churches. And if you start with the first church and look up the red ray root chakra and see what that means, or look up the word, which I'm going to define in my next book, the word for each church in Hebrew, going back to the Sanskrit, means each chakra. So the revelation, which means illumination, is part of the law of one that is now the Christianity as the rapture and how to ascend to heaven. The way to heaven is through me. So the law of one is not a competing religion. It is a spiritual way that everyone knew about on this planet for thousands of years. And then there was a change. Yeah. And all of that knowledge went away.
Yeah. Okay. And that was probably religions. They put their own stuff in the middle of it. Now you mentioned Ra.
Yeah.
We have the understanding that Ra was the sun god. Yes. And if I've read quite a bit of the Sumerian tablets, and it appears to me like Ra may have been an Anunnaki.
Well, if you look at it, there's a problem with the Anunnaki. The problem with the Anunnaki is that the word Anunnaki, the way we use the concept, is rightly a group of evil people. Okay, but the word Anunnaki, and you can look this up, is based on 1948 translation from Sitchin, that he said that the word Anu, that he thought was. First, let me explain that in the cuneiform from the Mesopotamian language, there are no spaces in between words or sentences at all. It's just one long script. The Hebrew language coming from Sanskrit is also the same way. Sanskrit, Hebrew, the Yiddish, and most of the European, or Middle Eastern languages were written the same way because they all come from Sanskrit. Right. So the Mesopotamian cuneiform is written with no spaces. So when Sitchin was trying to translate it, he read the word Anu, and he knew that the next Mesopotamia is here, let's say, in the Middle East. There's a country to the east, southeast of it was called Arcadia. Arcadia was a Greek province. They had a god named Anu. So when they saw the word Anu, this will go back to what I was saying before about the Mesopotamians saying they got that from them. He thought they got that from the Arcadians, so the word Anu means the god. He skipped over the word Na, didn't mean anything to him. He didn't know what it meant. He didn't use it. The word Ki, he assumed meant comes. So he said, this sentence says, the god Anu, an alien or a god, came to Earth. Then you come forward in time, and Giorgio Tsoukalos, doing the History Channel's Ancient Aliens show, in 2012, then furthered the translation and said that he says, instead of the god Anu came to Earth, he said those from the heavens came. Now it became an entire species. Okay, but there's no translation that says that. When you look at the scholars, people who have translated that language now, the Mesopotamian language, found their dictionaries and translated it. That sentence for that word, Anunnaki, as one word, is two words. It is Anunna and the word ki. The word Anunna does not mean gods from heaven in a spaceship or a god Anu. The word Anunna means royalty or bloodline. Okay, so the translation, you could look this up in the world. The translation is wrong, but the entire ancient aliens theory today is based on the selling point of Anunnaki being one word meaning an entire species.
Yeah.
Now, you have these statues and things. There was a group of people that was not called the Anunnaki at the time by anyone. Okay. It was called royalty, but did they come from outer space? We don't know. However, here's my thing. It doesn't really matter. It's like when people say, did Jesus really exist in the physical? That's not as important. Again, remember what I was saying a minute ago, where people are focusing on the physical and not the spiritual? Whether the Anunnaki and what you know as Anunnaki was a physical group of beings that came to this earth or not, doesn't matter as much as someone did come here and make a change.
Yeah.
Whether they were called the Anunnaki or not, I know them as the Orion Crusaders. It doesn't matter the name that you call them. You still have in your mind the concept that somebody nefarious showed up here and did something. But to answer your question now and get back on point, when you were saying, wondering about the ancient scrolls and the Anunnaki, there are a lot of people who now refer to Marduk as Marduk Anunnaki, like his last name is Anunnaki. Okay? It's not wrong, because the concept of somebody did show up here on this earth with a nefarious idea and took control of all the religions one by one on this planet and corrupted them to not give you the information of the laws of the universe and how to ascend in every religion. If you look at just the Christian religion, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Constantine had the first and second Council of Nicaea, where they threw out 160 books out of the modern Bible that you know as the New Testament and the Old Testament. The Hebrews hate our Old Testament because we claim it's theirs and it's similar, but it drives them nuts because there's changes made and books missing. Okay. Yeah. So and then they claim that the same with the Christian. There was many other books from all of the religions at the time. And Constantine, who was trying to stop a war between the Christians and other groups, pagans, what they call them now, he wasn't even a Christian at the time. On his deathbed, he converted. As he was dying, he converted to Christianity. But they changed the narrative of that entire Bible, and you only have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John now. And there were at least all of the 12 apostles that we have found in the Dead Sea at the same time that talks about the Anunnaki from the Mesopotamian scroll along with that scroll. So the concept that there was evil people who came here is okay if you know them as, because some people would call them the Illuminati. Yeah. Some people would call them the Bilderbergers. They're all of those things. Those things are all just groups of physical people doing those things, and they do different things, but they're all connected back to the Luciferians, which is part of the Atlanteans who were evil, not Thoth and not most of the Atlanteans. But there was, like in every human race in third dimension, there are two kinds of people. Those in service to self, that's evil. And those in service to others. And that is the choice that you have here. And that's the knowledge of the law of one, is that the knowledge that has been taken from you is that you're supposed to make a choice here. That's what you're here to do. Live and have these experiences and ascend either as evil or as good. And they have taken the knowledge of that away. And that's why it's still reminiscent, like Adam and Eve. And what did they gain when they ate the fruit? The knowledge of good and evil. What does that mean? That means that what they gained was the knowledge of the laws of the universe and ascension, the law of one.
Now, there's something that is amusing to me. Ra, that his first name, according to what we have been told, is Amen.
Yeah, Amun, right?
Amun Ra.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be the sun god, is what we're told.
Yeah.
And the Christians at the end of the Lord's Prayer saying, Amen.
Amen.
So they are still praying to the sun god, because that's their impression.
Yeah.
Well, can you comment on that?
Is when you go back far enough in the religions, especially if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, but you see that in the Middle Eastern religions that are more than 12,000 years old, you find that what they referred to was, we say, the light. Now, they said the sun, because the sun above us was the biggest light in the sky. So they used the vernacular. It's a vernacular. They used the vernacular sun, fire. So did the Greeks. Everyone back then, if you go back to 3,000 years ago and go further back to 10,000 years ago, everyone in the East, the Romans, until they were nothing, you go back far enough, they didn't exist. The Greeks, the Egyptians, and even the Chinese and the Japanese, these people whose cultures, the Indians in India, these people who have cultures that are more than 2,000, 3,000 years old, that go back far enough, all referred to the light, which is what we use that vernacular today, as the sun. So so their gods became the sun gods, or the son of the god. Jesus, in your reference, right? Jesus being the son God of God. He never said that. He used a more ancient approach, which is discussed in the Emerald Tablets, the Son of Man. Jesus, 2,000 years ago, said, I am the Son of Man. He never said, I am the Son of God. But he was trying to get the concept across that we are all the sons and daughters of God. But he was the Son of Man, and it takes on a different connotation if you actually know the ancient religions that he would have been learning about then, which were still teaching the law of one. And so my point of this is that, getting back to what you were saying, there's been that perversion where people associate things with, well, that means that all of the Hebrew and Christian, because they say Amen, that means they're worshiping the Jesus, the God from Egypt. Well, they are, but the concept wasn't what we think it is now, that it was raw. It was the sun, and that meant the fire within you, and that's what they were teaching. And if you read the Emerald Tablets, you learn the same thing. The first six chapters of the Emerald Tablets are the chakras, or the first 7 are the chakras. The problem with the chakras, and I said this before, is that we count the red ray as 1, and then we count the orange ray as 2, and the yellow ray as 3, and the heart chakra as 4. If the further you go back, the more you realize that in all cultures, it's 3 through 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are the chakras. 3 through 9. That is 3, 6, 9. Okay? It's not 1 through 7. It's 3, 6, 9. 3 being the red ray base root, 6 being the heart chakra, and 9 being the crown chakra. And that is the makeup of the universe. And Thoth was telling this 12,000 years ago, when they claimed that they know that at least goes back that far. All other religions did too. When you shift those numbers in your mind's eye from 1 through 7, with no correlation to 3, 6, and 9 at all, and you shift that to 3 as the red ray chakra, 6 as the heart chakra, and 9 as the illuminated third eye chakra, everything about the chakras then makes sense for the torus that is the human body, that is in nature, that is the universe, the planet, that is the rotating storms in the atmosphere, the rotating galaxies in the universe, the ebb and flow of the ocean's currents. Everything is based on the Fibonacci sequence. And the Fibonacci sequence, there's 2 parts to that. The Fibonacci sequence is the right angles. That is the fractal. That is the masculine energy. The ratio of phi, not pi, phi, which is 1.618, is the circumference, the circle, the spiral that you see drawn in the caves all over the world. that circle, that spiral is the feminine energy that is not the masculine warlike living in the flesh energy. It is the spiritual energy. And this is talked about in the Law of One. Yeah. This is talked about in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It's talked about in every religion. When you get away from the modern Orthodox religion and what they're teaching you today, and you go to what they were being taught to people, what they were teaching people before this organized Anunnaki group changed the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, the 3, 6, and 9 has been around a very long time, and the last one that talks about that was Nikola Tesla.
Yes, and Nikola Tesla said, the secret to the universe, if you want to know the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Energy, red ray, number 3, base root chakra. Frequency of heart, love, and vibration, spirit. Okay, so when you apply the chakras in the right order, and literally in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he says the governing spheres. Now, the word chakra, if you go back to the ancient Greek and their concept of the chakra, they're not the ones who created that. They came from the East, that word. But the Greeks called it the spindle wheel.
Yeah.
In the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, you hear of the words, the wheel within wheels. Mm-hmm. That is the chakra spinning. That is the chakra that you have in your body. And those are a wheel-like thing that vibrates and spins. And as you become more spiritual, it spins faster. And as it spins faster, it starts to solidify and turn into crystalline properties. Okay? This is what the ancients were telling you about in all of these things. And then in the modern, in the Law of One. So people say, well, they just made up the Law of One. Weird, because you also can say that about all religions, but yet all religions made up the exact same knowledge. Going back, that we're aware of with everything we have in history, more than 12,000 years, and some of it, those people claim, came from 75,000 years ago. So are we saying that all of everybody who never spoke with anybody on the earth actually did, and they all stole the same story? Because some of them never claim to have spoken to in any way. And if you listen to science, they say the Vikings never met the Africans never met the Australians, right? You had the Chinese and it wasn't until the modern era when these people started sailing around the world. So we're talking 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years ago. Before that, there wasn't much travel. So if that was the case, because we were all in loincloths, how is it that we're now saying that all these religions came out of a time when they were cavemen? So we're saying they were simple and didn't know anything, and we're far superior to them. Yet we're going to acknowledge that they created all of our spirituality. These dumb people who were dressing in animal skins and hitting each other with clubs and couldn't even speak. So now we're going to say that they created all of the civilization, and it's okay to believe that. That's like people saying aliens, UFOs don't exist; they're demons.
Yeah.
Right? I would rather believe in a God that nobody has spoken to for 2,000 years than an alien that 20,000 people every day around the world actually see. That's kind of silly. And then you'll say, well, they don't exist, but they're this evil thing that's called a demon that nobody's ever seen, that's told about in these ancient Bibles. And so that's what they are. They're just the devil trying to possess you. And lie to you. Yeah. So you'll believe that blindly before you'll believe logic. But then when you want to talk about when the religions came into play, all of a sudden you quote the scientist and you want to believe in science and logic all of a sudden. So when it suits people, they change their belief system accordingly from the different spectrums to propagate whatever they're trying to get across to you. And all of that is misinformation to keep you from learning about yourself and about your own ascension.
Yeah, and the original, even in the West, the original writings of the religions, there was a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of love in there, until the people got a hold of it and they started putting in concepts like, if you don't think like I do, I am obligated to kill you.
Yes, I mean, when you look at things like, here's for instance, and this is going to scare some people, but when you look at Socrates. Socrates, 4,000 years ago, 3,500 years ago, said, the earth, I don't believe is flat, I believe it's round. They tried him, convicted him, and his penalty was death for saying that. And they made him drink a poison and he died.
Yeah.
Because he said the earth was round. Come forward in time to now. Now you have to remember that Pythagorean theorem from Pythagoras, when they found the flower of life, is written in 2D representation. All of our math today is based on a two-dimensional mathematics, not a three-dimensional or four-dimensional mathematics. Okay? So everybody says, well, the earth is actually flat. Well, if that's the case, then the math from Pythagoras had to have been right. But science says there's something wrong with our mathematics. And the same thing, that same shift from 1 through 7 has been what is solidified our mathematics. Our mathematics are based on 0 through 9 or 1 through 10. We count by tens, 5 or 10, 10, 20, 30, 40.
Yeah, I see we are down to the bottom of the hour here. For those of you that joined us late, we are talking with Leonard O'Neill. He is going to be expanding more into the law of one. And for those of you that like to check out the website while we're talking, here is his website. That's orionrising.podbean.com. I think that's probably clear enough.
Yes.
Orion
Rising. Orion Rising, like the constellation. ORIONRISING.podbean, PODBEAN.com. And that's where you can listen to my podcast in the 3D version.
There's a lot of things over there to learn.
And that goes everywhere in the world. So if it's not already on the app that you listen to your podcast, go to Podbean and go to my page, and there's the RSS number. You can copy that, and you can put that into whatever app you get your podcast from, and your company, whoever owns that app, will accept that RSS number, and all of my episodes will be downloaded into your app for you to listen to.
Okay. We are going through some really strange times here. Time is faster, and we are seeing that we feel it and seeing that the vibration is rising. Does the law of one speak anything about what we are probably going to go through here shortly, called Ascension?
Yes, absolutely. The concept, say, let's get to the law of one, the books. The concept of why that was happening was Ra was warning our societal structure, our planet, that we were already late for a natural progression of the human race to ascend. And they call those times a harvest, where a large number of people will then ascend. You guys know that if you're Christian, as a rapture.
Yeah.
And we're overdue. This was in 1981. We were already overdue by a couple of thousand of years, actually a little bit more than that, but I'm just keeping it simple. And that we were being held by the Anunnaki, the Orion Crusaders. You guys know them as the Anunnaki, most of you out there, being held in this perpetual state when they usurped control of this matrix to keep us from the knowledge of ascension, so nobody's ascending. So whether you believe that or not, some of you out there, we might lose because you're like, there is no reincarnation and you guys are demons. And if that's the case, you're living in a portion of your life in this lifetime where you're not being spiritual. You might be focusing just on the physical, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You could have already done what I've done 4 lifetimes from ago, and you're just doing things backwards. Okay, so that doesn't matter, and I don't judge anyone because everybody's on their own path. But the majority, but the entire spherical structure, this hive mind complex that is the human race on this planet, is overdue, and there are safeguards, getting to Aage's point, in the laws of the universe, that even if people don't come here to help, which has happened, to help, there's also safeguards that we are now actually moving our sun and this entire solar system is moving into a region of space that is actually changing the dynamic of the energy moving from the energy of the warlike masculine Mars energy, moving into the feminine, the age of Aquarius. Some of you guys know that this is the age of Aquarius. If you look up Aquarius, the Aquarius is a feminine, nurturing and healing energy. So we're actually moving into a region of space that's changing the dynamic of the energy, whether people on this planet keep fighting against it or not. They have no choice. So what's happening is that people came here. If you look at when Ra came through in 1981 to 1984, the total population of this planet was 2.7 billion souls. Today, in 2024, we are at 7.9 billion souls on this earth. So exponentially, we have grown as a species faster from 1981 to 2024 than at any other time in the history of the human race. It took us 12,000 years to get 2.7 billion people, and we quadrupled that, more than that, in 40 years, 45, 50 years. Think about that. Okay, so how is that possible? There's a large number of souls who came down here, and were born into human bodies that came here to help with the ascension. Those are called wanderers. They came here. They don't know it because they come in here and get veiled like all of us do. Some come through, if they orchestrate their life properly, to not be veiled. This lifetime, I came through unveiled, but I had to actually keep that quiet until I was able to tell people that I was not veiled, and I never have been. But I had to keep that from people for most of my life, because there is this Anunnaki, these evil people that will seek you out and kill you to make you recycle, because they want you to become mind wiped again. So they kill you, and if you come back through, brand new again, and you get veiled. And then you have to hope that you wake up to be able to help to make changes. Now, exponentially, people are waking up now because there's a group of people, a large number of people, billions, who have come here to help. Most of them don't know about it, and they're still asleep. But they're waking up. Then you have this region of space that we're constantly moving through, and we're going into now, which the Incans and the Mayans and the Aztecs called Baktun 13, that we left Baktun 12 in 2012 and entered into Baktun 13. There's that number 12 and the number 13. 3 and 1 is 4, or 1 plus 3. Okay, so that's the recycling. When I was talking earlier about the math, we count by 10s. We're supposed to be counting by 12s. When you count by 10s, it is the fractals, and it is the lower energy and vibration that you're not aware of. And I know this is confusing for some of you. Some of you, this is going to trigger. Instead, if you count by 12s, 3, 6, 9, what's the next progression? 12. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15, plus 3 is what? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 21, 22, 23, right? And you get up to 24. 12 plus 12 is 24. And then it recycles again. That's the enigma of 24. I know some of you don't get this right now, but there's a few of you out there that are going to hear this, that you're going to go, wait a minute, what? So the 24 is when it recycles again. So in the lower planes here in the third dimension, 3, 6, and 9. 9 is the God particle, the God potentiation, the Higgs boson. And that's the controlling factor that flips everything on itself, so that the spirals going inward and outward at the same time, they don't go off to infinity. They flip over and make this torus, this complete third dimensional structure of space-time that we have in the universe. When you go past that into 4D, 5D, and especially into 6D, you're now moving into a vibratory pattern that gets you to 12 in a higher octave, and then that gets you to 24. So in the physical plane, that would refer to us being in octave number or dimension number 8. When we reach dimension number 8, which is a long, long time from now, because we're in the third dimension here, then you would be in the vibratory dimension of 12 or 24, depending on where you reside. That's I'm sure completely confusing to most of you. And that's okay. because what I'm saying is I'm saying this because it's getting into your mind through osmosis. You may not understand it right now, but one day you're going to go, wait a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You had a question.
Yeah, I think wasn't it the Incas in South America that most of them, not all of them, but most of them disappeared.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. And that's talked about in the Law of One
Yeah,
as well. That literally they came here and there was a group of people that were working for the Galactic Council, like the group Ra is. And they came down and were teaching the people, the Incans. I believe it was them. It was one of the Incans, the Mayans, or the Aztecs. I don't think it was the Aztecs because they were more violent. I think it was the Incas. I think you're right. And they actually taught, you can look this up, guys. They thoroughly came to this conclusion that there was this spiritual way of practice in the universe where you were supposed to look within yourself and learn about yourself and ascend, and that this entire world was an illusion, and that we were immortal beings that were having a human experience, and that we were supposed to ascend, and they were working to teach everyone to be in service to others and to ascend. And the entire species, not all, but 98% of all of them, you can look this up in history, disappeared off the face of the earth with no dead bodies.
Yep.
With not taking anything with them. And science, anthropologists have looked for them. If they migrated in all directions, there would be an influx of humans in the population surrounding this entire species of people. And none of that happened. So we're talking about many, many millions. They say somewhere around 12 million human beings disappeared all at once off the face of this planet in South America at the exact same time, leaving no bodies, destruction, or anything, or any memory of them. They were just there one day and then gone the next, and nobody found their civilizations for thousands of years. And then they were going into the jungle and they found these pyramids and went, what is this? They found these cities and went, when did people live here? And now we're exploring them, right? Teotihuacan, a few other places around the world that you guys know about, Machu Picchu, and other places where these people just disappeared off the earth. Science doesn't want you to know so much about that, but the knowledge is still there. Aage knows about it. I know about it. It's still there. You can find it, but you should look that up and look up what they taught to their people. They were teaching something in a time that now we're just sort of getting back onto the scent of around the world.
Yeah.
And they all disappeared.
Yeah. And that it seemed like they just walked away because their tools were just laying there halfway through what they were working on.
Food was still sitting in places in pots.
Wait a minute. There were pots on the fire. They were half full of food, which still was there, a long time later.
Mummified, we found it. But see, they would rather, here's where science and the evil people and the governments, they tell you there are no such thing as aliens until you find the Incans disappeared, and then they'll go, well, maybe aliens came and took them. So all of a sudden, the same people who are telling you aliens don't exist, or that they're demons because there are no aliens, to explain it, they won't say, well, it was a rapture of some sort, like the one that's told in the Hebrew Bible. Nope, it wasn't that, because we don't want you to think that you can get out of this place. We want you to wait here for the bus.
That's right. Yeah, because we're moving into a region of space where there's a spike of information, energy coming out from the central sun, and we are in it right now. So it could happen again, not probably tomorrow morning at 5:15 in the morning, but it could be in the next few years that we could do this. And when it comes to the
we're actually shooting for less than 50. A lot of us are shooting for somewhere around 2032 to 2037, because that's the 2,000-year anniversary. Jesus wasn't born on year 0 like everyone thinks. If you look up the scholars, he's born around the year 4. somewhere between 3 and 6. They think around year 4. So if you look at that number, then that would mean he died at 33 years of age, plus 4 is 37. And if he died, when did he die? He died in so he would, that means he was, his year of birth 2,000 years ago would now be coming up, right? Unless you say he was executed at year 0 when he was 33 years of age, and then which case it would be 2032. But you have to add, I know this gets confusing, you have to add the 4 years because he was 30, but he was 33. So if he was born at year 4, then it's further out because he died at 33. So you have to add another 33. So that would mean that it's around the year 67. 2067 would be the 2000th year anniversary of Jesus's death. 2037 will be the 2000 year anniversary of Jesus's birth. So we're pushing for somewhere in that pocket, 2032 to, so I'm saying in the next like 50 years, somewhere. That's where a lot of us seem to think there might be another window for ascension for everyone. And it looks like that's what it's kind of winding up to be. Yeah.
And then of course, also, just as it happened to the Inca, it could happen now. That means that not everybody is going, because they're really scuss buckets of the world. And, people in Washington and places like that, they're going to be left behind to keep what they have wanted to have all their life, the conflict, the money, the corruption and all. They just thrive on that.
Well, and if you look at the Hopi Rock legend, let's get into that. If you look at the Hopi Rock legend, the Hopi Indians more than 10,000 years ago talked about a time in the future, and the natives in Australia did as well, and the natives in Africa, a time in the future where there's a separation, where people have to choose which way they're going to go. In the Hopi Rock legend here in the Americas and Arizona and the Four Corners, you can actually see there where they say there's this split in the timeline. Right now we're on this timeline of destruction, and people need to choose. And if they do, then they're going to jump timelines to this one where there's going to be a large number of people surviving. And if not, what's going to happen is that's going to leave behind, left behind, the other people. If the people ascend or even just physically move into this positive region of the age of Aquarius, then the population of the earth is going to have about 638,000 people on it. And if you go the other way, the population of the earth is going to go from 7.9 billion to about 12.7 billion people. Okay. So then if you look at the ancient aliens theory and the secret space program, they'll tell you there's a temporal war, a split and a shift in the timeline where one group of people that the evil people have gotten control, and AI has taken control of the planet. There's only about 638,000 humans, and they're like the Borg. They're part machine. And the other world that is in the other timeline is 12.5 billion humans, and they've done away with this way of life. They've gotten AI under control and gotten evil people under control and changed all the governments of the world to a more utopian society, mirroring the way things were on this earth more than 12,000 years ago, before the influence of the Anunnaki. So from different genres, just in the modern era, you see in the past, these spiritual beings claimed there was going to be this shift of two distinct timelines, one good and one evil, that could happen on the planet. Ra in the Law of One is warning that the Anunnaki, they were referring to them as the Orion Crusaders at the time, evil people that got kicked out of Orion, chased from Orion by good people that have been chasing them, that actually came here to help you, that are stopping the Orion Crusaders, but you know them as the Anunnaki. That's fine. Because as long as you have the concept in your mind that there is this evil group of marauders who came to Earth and tried to take control here because they wanted power, money, and fame, and then they were chased away, and now we're in the aftermath of mopping up, that's exactly what's happening here. And it's the cyclical nature, is my point. If you look at the Incans and the Mayans and the Aztecs were very violent and murdering people and killing people and sacrificing. And then you had this way of life that the Incans changed their way of life and chose a better way. And guess what? That's describing the Christian rapture. So when people say that's not going to happen, well, it could, because it has happened on this earth before. They just didn't call themselves Christians, but they followed the same way that Jesus was teaching. and the same way that Muhammad was teaching, and Moses was teaching, and all these other religions around the world, the Taoism from Lao Tzu, Buddhism from the Buddha, which happened at the same time, by the way, within the same country, between 637 and 635 BCE, right?
I want to go back to Atlantis for a little bit. They were the children of light that was teaching the law of one, and then you had the dark side over there.
Yes.
What do you think happened there? The children of light, they knew the deluge was going to happen. They knew they were going down. So many of them moved to Egypt, and they took their knowledge with them.
Yes. A lot of them did. A lot of them they had to, because they had, like you were saying, they knew that what had happened was, here's the truth of Atlantis. The evil people in Atlantis started messing with the 3, 6, and 9. And this is told by the Romans as well as the Egyptians. What had happened was they were messing with the energy of the earth, and they actually stopped the earth from turning. The core of the earth stopped turning, which means the mantle, all of the crust on top floating on this molten mantle, continued to move with inertia. And that changed the face of our planet and caused the planet to flip over on its axis. And that caused what the Indians in India talked about, the War of the Gods. Mm-hmm. So there was a civil war between the people of Atlantis, the children of light, and the daughters of sorrow. The daughters of sorrow were the evil people who were in service to self, and the children of light were the good people in service to others. And they had a civil war, and they basically, because of the destruction of the earth, lost all of their technology, and then had to relocate around the planet and basically start over with nothing, because all technology was rendered inert. Mm-hmm. And then, so you have the Egyptians finding this knowledge, the Book of Thoth, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and other nations, Mesopotamia, they all still had this knowledge that these people had dispersed around the planet to survive, and they were trying to reintegrate their knowledge to the world. But you had the same evil people that now took advantage of all of that and started taking control of the mundane. And then there was apparent an assist from off-world that we know as the Anunnaki that helped them to usurp the knowledge and control, and they've been working at it since for global dominance. And then there was a time about 1,000 years ago where they had most of the planet locked down. And they were solidifying that in Jesus's time and Muhammad's time. But things have changed because people like Jesus came through, and Muhammad came through, and others. And then in history, the same thing. Mahatma Gandhi, people that have been these great-minded people that have come through to teach the ways of enlightenment. Carl Jung, right? These people throughout, contemporary, coming down to now, that are teaching the proper way for you to look into the past and look into yourself, mm-hmm. to ascend, that it has made changes to the dynamic of the world, and the world has been on a tilt after it flipped over on its axis. And just 3 years ago or 4 years ago, it was off kilter by 22.5 degrees, 23.5 degrees off of when it used to be upright. And now it's 25.44 degrees. So it's literally righted itself 0.6% just in 6 years, which would suggest if it keeps going the way it is, it's going to exponentially speed up. That coincides with exactly the same exponentially speeding up of people awakening and starting to realize ascension and looking within themselves and ascending. So the planet that's been crooked is righting itself at the exact rate of speed that the human condition is righting itself.
So things are happening.
Things are happening. And that's also the moon that we have, which has had to be in the place that it is, closer than any moon we've ever observed around any body everywhere in the universe, is moving away from us at the exact rate of speed that is the same rate of speed that the planet is righting itself. Some try to say that the reason that the planet's off kilter is because the moon is there. I don't say that. And a lot of people who believe in spirituality say no. The moon is there because it had to be, because the planet was off kilter. And as the planet goes back upright, science says when the moon will be far enough away where it won't have much effect and we won't need it. Science has said this. People who don't even believe there's a God has said that if it keeps going the way it goes, the earth will come upright at the exact same time that the moon will be just far enough away to have little or no effect on the earth at all and get locked into an orbit or maybe move away from us. We don't know if it'll continue. But the planet won't need the moon for its tides.
Yeah, well,
anymore.
It's been around a long time, but it hasn't been here forever. The moon was parked in orbit somewhere between 12 and 15,000 years ago, because there is writings I have read coming out of India saying there is a time before the moon.
Yes, and I read the same stuff from the Romans, and they talk about a time before the moon existed and that it was brought here. And I've heard from people and read about that it was part of that War of the Gods, when what we now call the Kuiper Belt used to be a planet called Moldek that blew up. That all happened at the exact same time that all of the other things happened, and us flipping over on its axis and Atlantis sinking and the Atlanteans going from a global empire to basically back to the Stone Age, but they still had the knowledge.
Except for what they took to Egypt,
Except for what they took to Egypt, So they lost. That was the fall of the Tower of Babel. That was the fall of the human race when we went from greatness to basically the Stone Age, where we lost all of our technology and the knowledge, and it's been trying to be reintroduced. But you have this group of people that are trying to eradicate it and killing anyone who has the knowledge, like they did to the Essenes. And we only know that name because when we found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1948 in the Dead Sea area, we found out since then that it was this group of people called the Essenes who planted those things there to save them for the rest of the world, and that the organized church at the time hunted them all down, tortured them, and killed them to keep that knowledge from the human race. We know that as a fact now. So that means that there was a group of people with a concerted effort on this planet hunting down the knowledge of ascension and your personal connection with the universe itself, if not the source power of the universe, and to wipe all that out from existence and only teach you that there's a God that's coming back for you. Just wait here.
Yep, we've been treated like mushrooms for a while, haven't we?
Right? Yeah. So left kept in the dark and fed full of.
There you go. We're down to the last couple of minutes here of the show, and let people know where they can reach you again. And
yes, if you guys, I go live every Friday and teach the Law of One at 3 p.m. West Coast America time every Friday night on my podcast called Orion Rising. I go live on YouTube, I go live on Facebook, and I go live on X, Twitter. Then after the show's over, I convert the show into an MP3 file, and that goes out to the world shortly thereafter. So if you don't want to watch something in the video version of seeing me talk, but if you do that, all the chats come into my studio and I can answer your questions live. If you don't care about that and you just want to listen to the show, you can listen to that at anywhere you get your podcast around the world. If it's not already on that app, go to www.orionrising, ORIONRISING.podbean, PODBEAN as in Nancy.com. That'll take you to the podbean.com where my show is. And there's an RSS number there that you can copy and take back to your app. And then in your app somewhere, there's a place where you can add an RSS number. If I'm not there and you want to listen to me there, take that, copy it, paste it in there. All my shows that are on Podbean, and there's currently almost 500. I think I'm on 499 or 500 now. 500 episodes of my show, which includes the 93 weeks of me teaching the Law of One, but also other things that I've done for Ancient Aliens, because I created the website the Facebook group Ancient Aliens worldwide. I created that back in 2012. There's currently 300,000 members worldwide. And anybody from the Ancient Aliens television show, they're all in that group. And whenever they want to come on there, and I produce the show, and we interview them for whatever endeavor they have, new season, books, tours, things like that. But we also are investigative, all of UFOs and history and the ancient aliens throughout the world, going back all through time. So if you guys are a fan of the Ancient Aliens TV show, know that I'm one of the original people who got permission from Giorgio Tsoukalos and the History Channel to make that group. And that's still up there on the group. You can go back and see in 2012 that I had permission from them to do that, from Prometheus, from the History Channel. So you can either listen to the show in the video, watch me in the video on those platforms every Friday, and I have the archives on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, or you can listen around the world there.
Okay, that sounds good. Hey, this has been interesting. And
wait, one more commercial real quick before we go.
Yeah.
I have an up-and-coming book that's going to be coming out in the next few months, and it is called The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways. And everything that we discussed here today about the Law of One, about history, about spirituality is talked about in that book. And as soon as I get the website up from the publisher for people to pre-order, I will be advertising that on my pages and on my show for those of you who want to read about that. And I give you the long and short of it in that book, and then I'm going to give more details in the next book about the comparisons and showing you in history that all of this that Aage and I were talking about now was known to everyone on this planet until the Anunnaki took control of this planet and destroyed all of that knowledge, or tried to.
Yep. And when that book is out, we're going to do another show so we can talk a little deeper on it, because I'm sure there's stuff in there that we've never heard about before.
A lot of stuff we didn't even discuss here, and that most of you out there in the world don't know is real. And I give you where I get it from, so you know I'm not making it up. I tell you where in history or what book, and then I'm going to get into even more details and show you, like I made the claim about really quickly, and then we'll go. I know we got to go. I made the claim about the chakras and the letters to the churches. I talk about that in that book, but I'm going to actually show you and give you the definition of each church name and show you the correlation between each chakra and what that means, and then show you in there. And I'm going to do on my podcast, I'm going to talk about that and show you that exact same thing. Because not just that, if you read the first 6 books in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's telling you how to balance each chakra to ascend. And that's a theme throughout the entire world that has always been there, but it's esoteric. You have to know what to look for to see it, because you have to be looking for it. But you're not looking for a place. You're looking for a knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge to look for that knowledge, which is what the Anunnaki's taken away, is the knowledge that you have free will and that you should be looking for knowledge, then you'll never even see it, and you'll just read it and not understand it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us. And
thank you, Aage, for having me.
Yeah, you betcha. And we will see you again next time. And until then, be good to each other.